everyone, I'm Lavonne and welcome back to my channel. Today, per usual, I'm gonna be shouting you out from Instagram and then from YouTube comments on my previous videos. If you are curious about all the fun things we're gonna be talking about today, you can check out the description box down below. But some of the things we are gonna talk about are amniotic fluid levels, when it matters, does it cause a C-section or not? We talk about hypnobirthing, hypnobabies. You guys have been asking me that one for a long time and I finally got to it. We talked about pregnancy depression or depression during the pregnancy period versus postpartum depression. We talked about doing your own vaginal exams. We talked about informed consent and episiotomies. And then I have a very fun personal surprise to let you know about at the end of this video, so stay tuned because I may have gotten a little emotional and it's very exciting. So please make sure you subscribe and then let me know if you have any other questions. You can throw them in the comment box down below and then they may even be featured in a future Coffee and Questions video. This is November's Coffee and Questions. Let's get started. I think today I'm gonna start with your YouTube comments instead of Instagram comments because I typically start with Instagram comments and I think we should switch it up. But before I do that, I just wanna mention that if you've noticed in the most recent videos, my videos have taken a little bit, meaning a lot of it, of an upgrade. And that is because I actually have had help with my videos. I am running a business. I do personal labor support. I have private childbirth classes. I have online thing. I got Instagram going. It has been so much for me to handle. And so I'm so grateful for Brian. You wanna pop in here?
Hey guys.
And he has been helping me with my videos. So if you are looking for help on a video, on a promotional thing, on a business thing, like literally anything you need, right?
Yes.
Pretty much anything video related that you need, feel free to hit him up. I will put all of the information in the description box down below. I'm so grateful to him. Thank you so much for helping me out with my videos.
It's kind of warm right here.
Tell me about it. So let's go to YouTube and let's look at your comments and try to find some questions that you guys left for me. Jakara Hupp says, I hear things about women checking their own cervixes. Could you explain any problems with that or how one would go about such things? So I actually have seen this on multiple videos. I got an Instagram message yesterday about a guy trying to figure out and like have me talk him through how to check his wife's cervix. We are not checking each other's cervixes, okay guys? I am not going to be able to recommend that you check somebody else's cervix, first of all, because you will not know what's going on down there. So if you go back to my vaginal exams video, all about vaginal exams, what about labor, and then this how to engage the baby in your pelvis, which is my most recent video. So this is actually where the comment came from. You don't need to be checking your own cervix, guys. Take my childbirth class. I make it so much more clear to understand when exactly to go to the hospital, what to expect. I'm so popular. And then how to like know where you're at in the labor process without having to check your cervix. The only people that should be checking your cervix are a doctor, a midwife, or a nurse. It is possible to know what's going on with your labor without knowing what's going on in your cervix. Mind you, that is really the only way we truly know what's going on, but your contractions are a great indication of what's going on. The other thing is that we are worried about infection, that your hands are dirty, you can wear a glove, but in the hospital setting, we wear a sterile glove. So there's no germs on the glove. We wash our hands first. And then it took me, I'm not even kidding you, at least probably 20 to like 50 vaginal exams before I knew at all what I was feeling up there. You're feeling for a hole. Now, mind you, like if you feel pushy, you can reach inside yourself after washing your hands. If you feel a head there, then go to the hospital, okay? Like it's common sense that like there's probably a baby coming down. We don't want you to deliver at home or in the car, so get yourself to the hospital, birth center, wherever you're delivering. But otherwise, we don't wanna introduce bacteria to where the baby is. We don't wanna risk breaking your water too early. And so that is the risk with vaginal exams. We don't want you to be checking your own cervix. We meaning myself and probably your doctor. Now mind you, it is your body and your partner, if you're with a partner, like technically if you give them access to your cervix, they could try, but I almost promise you there's no way they're gonna know what's going on. It's a blind procedure and you have to like know what you're looking for, feel in, open your fingers and know that like, oh, this is a 4.5 centimeter cervix. Okay, so don't check your own cervix and then take my childbirth class so you know what's going on down there so you're not stressing about when to go and you don't have to be so obsessed about what your vaginal exam is. Ooh, I love your questions. Okay. How to engage your baby for a faster labor. This comes from Bethany Groen. It's like Broen, that's my mom's maiden name. She says, I have GDM, gestational diabetes, and P.S., newsflash, I have a series on that coming. stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. 37 and 5 weeks, am I going to be able to move around on a birth ball during labor? I don't want to be in bed the whole time. How safe is it to be on the birth ball during labor? For gestational diabetes, unless your sugars are like super duper high or super low, especially low because you can be dizzy and like kind of weak, there should really be no reason why you can't be on a birth ball unless there was something else happening. So when you're laboring, ask for a birth ball and then get on it and bounce around. I don't really see a reason, unless your doctor tells you there's one, for that to be an issue. We want you moving whether you have gestational diabetes or not. Miravat A is so sweet. She says, I love all your YouTube videos. Lots of love from Australia. Hi, Australia. She said, I did have a question, however, that I would love for you to cover in your upcoming Common Questions. I am currently 31 weeks and 5 days pregnant. I have a low amniotic fluid index, also called an AFI. It is classified within normal range, but on the very low range of the spectrum, sitting at 9 centimeters. I just want to know, what are some things I can do to increase my AFI? And when it comes to birth/induction, is low AFI grounds for a doctor to recommend early induction or a C-section? Such a good question. And then there's a second half of it. She said, also my baby is currently breech, and I'm wondering if my low amniotic fluid levels could be restricting her space to allow her to turn. Ding, ding, ding. You are so smart. Will she still be able to turn head down? I really want a natural vaginal birth. All right, Miravat, I got you here. So first of all, AFI. Let's talk about what is AFI. Amniotic fluid index is something that your doctor or midwife is going to test via ultrasound, and they are looking for 4 pockets around the baby. So baby's hanging out in there. Will you throw me my baby? So I have my baby here, and imagine 4 pockets around the baby. So there's uterus around here, and there's all this space around different sides of the baby, and that space is where the amniotic fluid is. If you go to my Instagram, I did a what happens when your water breaks little video thingy, and you can see all the fluid around the baby. And so what they're doing is they're measuring how much fluid is around the baby based on those 4 pockets, or the deepest vertical pocket of like the biggest pocket, and looking to make sure there's enough fluid. We love fluid around the baby because that's going to allow for cushion, it's allow for growth, and it allows for that cord to float freely around the baby so it doesn't get smushed. Baby gets all that they need as far as nutrients, oxygen, all that good stuff. So on the lower end of the spectrum at 9 centimeters, that's still normal. So we're not stressing out on the normal end, and your amniotic fluid levels are going to fluctuate throughout your pregnancy. Now, if you get a lower number, or they say your number is too low, there is something you can do to increase your amniotic fluid, because amniotic fluid is technically just your baby's pee. So if you imagine, how do you make urine or how do you make pee? You drink a lot of water. It may be an indication that you need to bump up your fluids, be drinking more fluids to increase that number, and then see what happens. Now, sometimes the amniotic fluid levels aren't that controllable by your fluid. So if you know you're drinking a ton of fluid and you still have a low amniotic fluid number, we do care. And you asked about a C-section or an induction. And low amniotic fluid levels may be a reason for an induction early, because we want to make sure that that cord doesn't get smushed on a random, and that you're on a random. We want to make sure that your cord doesn't get smushed randomly sometime in your pregnancy. We want to make sure that you're on the monitors and that we're moving towards delivery, because if there's an issue with making the fluid, you may not increase the fluid over time. It's probably only going to get less and less and maybe put your baby at risk. So induction, yes, but grounds for a C-section, probably not. There would have to be some other factors going on that would say, look, we got to do a C-section now. One of them being maybe that you can see that the cord is getting smushed, that there really isn't space around the baby. But I've had mamas in the hospital as a nurse that their amniotic fluid index level, their AFI was 0 or 1, and they still deliver vaginally, that the body, or for whatever reason, like the structures in there, there's probably still a little bit of fluid in there. It's just not very much. It's still protected. They can still deliver vaginally. So it could be a reason for induction, probably not a C-section. We do care, and the way you increase your number is by drinking a good amount of water, and then just trusting in your body that it knows what to do, and then staying on top of it with your midwife or your doctor to make sure that it's not going down and that it's staying stable. Shakira Gonzalez says, I know you say dance. What's your opinion on the baby mama dance? I think they're so fun. And if you do a baby mama dance, put it on Instagram and make sure you tag me at Bundlebirth so that I can see it, like it, love it, and celebrate with you as you dance that kiddo out. KM Friend 1 says, hi Sarah, love your videos. I recently had my son on September 28th, congratulations. And while in labor, I was told that I had an irritable uterus. Can you tell me what that means? Your videos helped me so much while I was pregnant. So an irritable uterus does not mean your uterus was like angry, okay? It means that it didn't quite know what it was doing yet. So we call it irritable when it's like, it kind of has these like little like squeezes and where there's no pattern to the contractions, whereas a regular contraction is gonna like start and it's gonna squeeze, it's gonna tighter, and oh my goodness gracious, and then it's a lot, and this is the peak, and it's gonna get less, and it's gonna lighten up, and now I feel it lighting up, and then it's slowly down over time, and now I feel some relief. Okay, that's a normal contraction, maybe a little bit longer than that, but you feel this slow increase till the peak, and then it slowly decreases, whereas with the irritability, it's like a ooh, here and there, where there's no pattern to it. It's pretty short, and like we're trying in the hospital, we would like if you had an irritable uterus, I'd say we need to establish some contractions because this little like bloop bloop isn't really gonna do much to your cervix. So it's probably prior to labor, or when you come into labor, they may say, oh, your uterus is kind of irritable, where they see these little like bloop 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 bloops. I hope that makes sense. Vicky Gladden says, hey Sarah, thanks for another great video. I delivered my son 6 months ago and I have 2 questions. One is I experienced coupling contractions. So today's like a contraction day, I guess. I never heard about that before, so I was wondering what might have caused me to experience these kind of contractions. So coupling contractions would be when you have a contraction that comes and then it goes, and then right before it gets to the bottom and it's all gone, then it like starts another contraction where you're like, whoa, wait, I thought it was over. It's not over. I have to do this all over again, and I didn't get my break between contractions. But then once you have these little like camel hump contractions, you have a little breather, you can, I'm good, and then you have some space, and then another one comes, and then so they're coupling. They're like a pair of contractions that come together. So usually the reason for that is a malposition in your pelvis where baby isn't quite aligned in that perfect way with the back of the head towards the front of mom. It usually means that the baby is occiput posterior or sunny side up, which is also a YouTube video coming. It's on my radar. It's coming soon. And so basically the baby is facing the wrong way. You can still deliver vaginally. You may have delivered vaginally still with that baby in that right position, but it usually means that your body is like, when it contracts, it's like, ooh, let's bring the baby down. And yes, it's coming down. And then as it lets go, it's like, wait a second, it didn't come down in the right way. Like baby was supposed to come this way, but instead was like maybe banging on a bone because it was a little crooked, or it was facing the wrong way where it didn't descend quite as much as I wanted. So let me try again. Oh, yeah, okay, let me go all over again. Does that make sense? So basically your body's trying to tell you like, hey, the baby's not getting into the pelvis in the right way. So I'm gonna try to compensate by making this contraction a little stronger and see if we can get the baby down. That's probably why you had coupling contractions. You delivered your baby. So we're gonna assume that everything worked out great. But if it does happen and say you're in labor and you're noticing that pattern of contractions, or maybe you're a labor and delivery nurse and you're noticing that contraction, we gotta get you up and moving to get that baby twisted in the right position so that those contractions go away. We can turn the baby. This I teach you all about in my upcoming nursing training here in Los Angeles and future trainings to come. So you can go to my website there to find out about that. And then also I talk about this in my Engaging the Baby video, which is my most recent video I've already mentioned. And so go there and do some of those things. You got to get that baby off the pelvis, and then all of a sudden your contractions will likely space out and not do that coupling thing and not tease you thinking it's going to be gone, and then all of a sudden you're like, no, here comes another one. T Lacey 5 on my most recent Coffee and Questions. She says, VBAC Mama here. What are your thoughts on hypnobirthing, hypnobabies? I will talk about the hypnobirthing, hypnobabies thing for a second. You guys have asked me this a ton. I've sort of avoided it because, especially for endorsing different methods, I get like a little bit leery because I don't personally believe that there is one right or wrong way to deliver your baby, to labor, to birth, all of that. I think that for you, what I want to encourage you to do is discover what works for you and what you get drawn to, different types of methods. I want you to hold your hands open and say, okay, what can I personally glean from this experience that may work for me? With hypnobirthing, hypnobabies, I think that there is tons of value in that curriculum. One of the main things with hypnobirthing, hypnobabies is guided visualization or meditation, or like almost like a distraction with your breath and with like an imagery. Particularly, they have these audible scripts that are like 20 to 45-minute things where a woman or a man, usually a woman with a British accent, which don't we love British accents, talks you through something happening. So imagine you're in the, I can't think of a script, but I listen to them all the time. Like, imagine your bubble of peace. That is one thing that I actually use and I've stolen from hypnobirthing, of like creating this space in your labor and birth that feels safe. That's this bubble around you, and that's partially what the partner can do. So moral of the story is that hypnobirthing hypnobabies is guided visualization. It's deep breathing and it's distraction with the idea. And one of the things they say is pain-free childbirth. And so I am hesitant to agree with that. Not to say that I have seen women successfully use the hypnobirthing hypnobabies curriculum / ways to go through labor and not experience pain. I think it is possible. I've seen it maybe 3 times of the many, many, many women that have done the class and learned the methods. And so my one concern with that is that any time that anybody's telling you faster labor, which I know I said that in my last video, but it does in theory potentially set you up for a faster labor, but I'm never gonna promise you're gonna have a faster labor because I don't know what's going to go on. So faster labor or pain-free, like those are trigger words to me where I'm like, oh, don't promise anyone anything. We don't know what's gonna happen with your labor. And so I would say pick up the curriculum, take what works for you, especially if you're motivated by like a meditation or a guided visualization. It's great tools for that. I actually have all the tracks. I will occasionally play them in a birth with a mama and say, hey, let's do a guided visualization. We put on headphones, she zones out for 45 minutes. It can be super helpful. Now, if you've done some hypnosis, this may be something that you are very drawn to and that works for you. So does it work? I've seen it work a couple of times. At the same time, I also want you to add in some supplemental learning information on how to cope with labor, because more often than not in the hospital, I would see these women who would use the hypnobirthing stuff until about 4 or 5 centimeters, and then when ish got real, all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, no, it's painful. I wasn't ready. And so they don't have the skills or the tools to cope with labor at that point. And hypnobirthing goes out the window. We have major meltdowns. And then we have to come to a come to Jesus moment of what are we gonna do now? And so a lot of times that would end up in an epidural because they just weren't ready for the intensity that labor brings. And so do your hypnobirthing class and then add on a coping with labor class. My coping with labor class online, guys, is very reasonable. It gives you so many practical tools that you can add on and supplement all of the hypnobirthing techniques into what you have, so that if this works for you the whole way, great, amazing, hallelujah, we love it, have your pain-free childbirth, okay? But if you were to get to a place where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed, this isn't what I expected, it's way more intense than I thought, you can tap into your toolbox of other things that can help you to cope with the labor so that you're not left there like, oh, I thought it was gonna be pain-free and now, holy moly, it actually hurts, okay? So moral of the story is I love hypnobirthing, I love hypnobabies, I think there's tons of value to it, but anytime you're learning from anyone, myself included, take what you learn, hold your hands open, say what works for me, does that make sense, is that what I want, and then build off of that in your learning to discover what your birth preferences are, what's important to you, and how you wanna navigate your birth. Okay, so let's go to Instagram because I have a ton of questions over here from Instagram, and let's see what you got. TruthMe515 says, what are some tools for partners when your birthing plan flies out the window due to complications? I love you, TruthMe. This is so good. So, and mind you, this is a complex answer. I think that especially as somebody, as a labor coach who's at the bedside seeing some of this stuff happen, and I do particularly feel like I have some more skills because I've worked in the hospital, I know what all sides are thinking. I would say that partners, the best thing you can do when birth plan flies out the window or there's complications that come up in the pregnancy is stay connected with her, stay engaged, don't back off, and just love her and encourage her. Stay present with her in that moment. And this is the flex and flow flow of labor. I say this all the time. I do have a video on this. If you want to know what I mean by flex and flow by saying that a million times, you can see that. But moral of the story is that we don't know what's going to happen. This is why I can't promise you anything that's going to happen in your labor, and we have to be able to be flexible and go with the flow. And so as you do that and you navigate your birth preferences, look at the list, partners, and say, okay, this has gone out the window, but just because a couple of things have gone out the window doesn't mean the entire birth plan goes out the window. So she really wants skin to skin. That's still on there. That still may be on the table. We may just need to adjust our expectations and adjust our preferences and say, all right, let's keep it positive. We'll still maintain this. We're going to do skin to skin later. We're going to still breastfeed. We're going to still, get up on the ball and rock around, or we'll get a walking epidural instead of a standard epidural, those kind of things that you're keeping her positive. Also reminding her why she's there. I think a lot of times with labor, especially if it's long or there's complications and it's scary, it can steal the joy from the situation. And so keeping her perspective on, look, we are here, we are in labor, whether there's preeclampsia or gestational diabetes or something else crazy happening, that let's connect and bond with each other and bond with this baby and take some mental pictures of the fact that this is our birth story and it is beautiful the way that it is. It's exactly what it is supposed to be, that we are in an environment that is supportive, that is taking care of us and all of our needs, that we are safe in this place. Reminding her that she's safe, reminding her that she's loved, keeping her focused on the end goal rather than all the little stuff that goes out the window is really going to help to make such a huge difference to her birth memory and her birth experience, and also yours as the partner. Sarah Mululo says, what are the causes of abdomen separation when you're pregnant? So this is called Diastasis Recti. I can do a video on this if you want. So what happens is you imagine your abs, like if I had a six pack, which I definitely don't. So let's imagine there's the six pack abs, right? That in here, in those muscles, that middle line, while you're pregnant, as the belly expands, is going to come apart. It is super normal for you in your pregnancy for those muscles to separate. It almost happens to everybody, okay? And so it's normal, okay? What's the cause? It's because the pregnancy grows. Now, once you deliver, that's when we really care that those muscles do grow back together rather than they stay separated and can cause other complications. If you want a video on that, you can ask me about that one. But it is normal. It's because the pregnancy is growing. It's me, Courtney G, says, can a good birth class take the place of a doula if you can't afford one? Such a good question. I would say not take the place of a doula, but could very much supplement / if you don't have access to a doula, then yes, you gotta be taking a childbirth class. And I think really where the difference is made here is how engaged your partner is with being that support for you. I have been in births where as a nurse, the sister or the mom or the partner has been such an incredible support. Remember, a doula is just emotional, physical support. And so that may be enough for you. That might be all that you need. And if your partner is super engaged and paying a lot of attention, then they may be able to, it's almost like you're training them to be your doula. The one place that I would say that for sure you can get this is through my birth coaching program. I had a couple that recently delivered, and he was literally like the A+ student of the world. He took notes, he read the books that I recommended, he asked the best questions, they did all of my classes, and when it came to labor time, he was amazing for her. He knew the answers to things, he gave her suggestions, he was confident in what he did with her. And so yes, I would say with the right training and support, it is possible. But also you have to ask your partner how much stress it feels for them to feel responsible for that. Now, again, if you don't have access to a doula or you can't afford a doula, there are volunteer doula programs all over the place. There are lower cost doulas available. You can think about a good friend that you know would be very supportive and emotionally, physically there for you. Take my Coping with Labor class, all of you guys together, and that really will help to set you up. Runaround answer is, I don't know about replace, but it would come in a close second. That if you can't afford a doula, then yes, do a childbirth class, do a Coping with Labor class, and make sure that whoever is gonna be there with you for the birth does it with you. And then talk about what's important to you. Put together your birth preferences together, and then make sure you're very vocal in the labor, that you say I need this, give me this, push here, do that, and they're gonna be able to support you in a way that is great and helps with the birth experience and helps to make you more comfortable through the process. Emily Y. Hun says, if the doctor says you need an episiotomy, can you say no? Absolutely, 100% yes. And if you tell them no and they do it, it is assault. This is such a hot button issue for me. It makes me insane. One of my biggest things and why I do what I do is because I believe so much in informed consent and shared decision making that everything that happens to your body is your own decision. No one should be making those decisions for you. Now, mind you, you've chosen a care team that hopefully you trust. So in the case of an emergency, you're saying, yes, I believe that you have my best at heart. Like say an emergency C-section or something, you're not like, oh, well, but you want to be able to trust them that if their professional opinion is saying for the safety of your baby, we need an emergency C-section now, you can go, okay, I understand that. But especially for something like an episiotomy, if an episiotomy is necessary, which very rarely is it never necessary, and by the way, an episiotomy is where they make a cut in the vaginal tissues or like on the vagina hole to make the vagina hole bigger to deliver the baby faster, rather than waiting to let you tear. And so if you don't want that, if you don't want anything, it's your decision. You can refuse it. They'll document in the computer, hey, yo, she refuses. The expectation is that they talk you through what are the risks in not doing it, what's the benefit of doing it, and do I have any other options? And if you don't, and you're like, nope, I don't want it, then that's your choice. Your body, your choice, no matter what it is, and they really need to be listening to you on this rather than doing things that you don't want, that you don't like, that you don't understand. That is the goal for your birth. I hear all about postpartum depression. What about depression during pregnancy? Is it a thing? Signs and symptoms. So this comes to my postpartum depression video. If you haven't seen that, go back because the signs and symptoms are very much the same in pregnancy as they are in postpartum. You're more weepy, you're more irritable, you maybe aren't bonding with your baby and you're maybe resentful or upset about the pregnancy, that you have sleeping problems, eating problems, like random crying spells, like weeping spells at random times for no reason. Those kind of things, yes, of course, are signs and symptoms of prenatal depression or pregnancy depression, or what did you call it here? Depression during pregnancy. And so yes, tell your OB, get a referral to a psychologist, because especially if we don't catch it in the early parts of pregnancy, then it very likely, I will just be totally candid, it will probably carry into a postpartum period, because especially there's a hormonal component, it's probably a lifestyle component. And so some of those risk factors for postpartum depression are still present in pregnancy a lot of times. And so if you're feeling that, yes, it's the same. Do what you got to do to follow up and get the resources that you need. Follow the same guidelines as my postpartum depression video. This person wanted it to be anonymous. So if you're on Instagram and you want your question to be anonymous, just say she said anon, please. So just say anonymous, or just make it clear that like you don't want your name, no name, something like that. She goes, is it harder to breastfeed if you have big breasts that are saggy? And I would say that no matter what size your breasts are, no matter how saggy your boobs are, like you can probably still breastfeed. So if you have the milk there, the one thing with big breasts is that you might have more milk, maybe, flex and flow. You also are at higher risk of the baby like really getting smushed in the big breast and like suffocating your baby with your boob, okay? We don't want that. So you just wanna be extra careful to like turn the baby back once they're latched on so you can see their nose, and also you're not falling asleep with your baby at your breast. Big breasted women are like, the breast can totally cover the baby's face and you forget, and then all of a sudden baby is like suffocated. No. We want to prevent that. So a football hold is great because you can see their little nose. If you're doing a cross cradle hold, you just want to lean the baby back a little bit so you can see the nostril. You can also press in on the breast by the nose, pushing towards the nipple to just make sure you can see that little sliver in their nose. Otherwise, big and saggy boobies, we don't care. You can still breastfeed. The size of the breast really doesn't matter for breastfeeding, big or small. And last but not least, Mama Emily says, do you still get emotional at births? Sort of. I'm not gonna lie. I've seen like over 5,000 births, guys. So like when they're my own personal client, yes, I do a lot of times choke up tears, but like letting a tear fall doesn't really happen anymore. I'm also really focused on taking pictures in the moment and making sure that baby's safe, mom's safe, dad or partner is there, and they're all present and they're not worried about anything. I'm also watching like my nurse brain. I can't turn off my nurse brain, so I'm watching like making sure she's not bleeding too much. What's going on? Did she tear? Where's the rest of the team? So there's a lot going on in my head that it's hard to get emotional. But if I just step back, in fact, the last birth I was at, they had a birth photographer present, and so I wasn't taking pictures. And that one, I was like, hold it in. And then there was the sweetest moment ever where he was singing to the baby, and he sang to the baby in utero. And then the baby, like on skin to skin, actually responded and like started singing back. We have video of this, so I'm gonna see if I have footage and I'll throw it on my Instagram if they let me. Doubt it, but we'll see, where he's singing and the baby would like, and then he'd stop singing and then he'd start singing again. It was insane, and I just lost it. Like complete, full, losing it, crying, and they were like, oh my gosh, we got her to cry. Yes, you can get me to cry, but I have to be like present in the moment like that. Okay, I'm still a softie in my heart. I've done this so much. So this one is a little different and really fun, okay? Sarah Thigi says, is your sister pregnant yet? So if you don't know that I do have a sister, she's 5 years younger than me. I was present at her birth. I will post on Instagram a picture of us. If I haven't already, I don't know if I have, but if I haven't, I'll post one of the two of us, like me holding her when I was 5. I was there. I think it's probably one of the reasons why I'm so obsessed with birth, and I'm gonna cry. Oh my God, my sister's pregnant. I am going to lose my mind. So clearly, like, the question is, do you cry? Like, it's not even her birth and I'm still crying. My sister is pregnant. She's 13 weeks right now. She's living in Ecuador, so I will be going to Minnesota for her birth. If you are in Minnesota, write me on Instagram or on email. I may be taking clients in Minnesota while she's there. I also will be coordinating a group childbirth class in the Twin Cities area. But this is your announcement. My sister is pregnant and we're gonna have a little one in our family, and I will be there. I will be her birth coach. She's going through my entire birth coaching program, her and her husband, from Ecuador and then from Minnesota, and then when I go there. So I will be in Minnesota for at least 6 weeks. So all of this is gonna be on Instagram. And then I probably, hopefully, will have her birth story, maybe here if she allows me flex and flow on that one. So expect more to come with my sister's pregnancy because we're having a baby. Not me, but it feels like me, my little raspberry. So that is my big announcement for the day. With all of that being said, thank you so much for being here, guys. I know I've mentioned all sorts of classes and programs and all the other things that I can do to help you. I wanna be here for you. I wanna make sure you have all the resources that you need to have that positive birth memory. Everything is over on my website. If you haven't already, please subscribe down below, give it a like, share it with a friend, comment any other questions. I do usually scroll back to my coffee and questions and answer them on the next coffee and questions. So if you want me to see your question, put it on this video. And then until next time, don't forget to flex and flow, and I will see you soon. Bye. I'm gonna be dripping in sweat in no time. I don't think I put on deodorant. See, it's real.
Does not sound like a real fire. It's not a real crackle, like a real...
Oh, okay. My videos have taken an up on the up. No. Do it always with YouTube first. That's wrong. Made a weird thing. Did a weird thing. One of many. Jakara Hupp says, glad you fixed the video glitch. Thanks a lot. I'll order more. You can get over yourself with the crackles. I'm imagining that it's real fire. It is real fire. I'm imagining that it's wood. Here I am, like with babysitting coming out of me. Just gonna pause here with my hands in a weird position. So what you wanna do is you wanna, so what you needed to do, no, you know what you needed to do. Whoa, wow. Speaking in tongues. Problems where you're either this birth, I'm gonna be the hottest mess. Like, and I wanna catch it. I wanna catch the baby. I wanna deliver it. Ah! Let's get started.
Yeah, that's good.
Hey, that baby mama. No, that baby mama. No. You know what I mean? Like, it's that song, the baby mama, and the son, and they like dance with their bellies.